It's a no movement of the feet thing. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah, brother.
You're Why couldn't they have just said that at the freaking CrossFit Games open workout?
It's traditional.
We needed that. Yo, the Rogue Invitational Qualifier is upon us. They made a post the other day where they put up their workouts, and I commented on there that I had liked the workouts. And one of the things that I like the most is this workout that we're gonna talk about today, which involves the sandbag clean. First thing that I liked about the sandbag clean is that they're going up and over the shoulder. They're not saying you gotta control it at the shoulder. I hate the control at the shoulder sandbag clean. I think it's so stupid, because what part of your shoulder is the shoulder? How far in front of your chest is it allowed to sit while it is still on your shoulder and considered a controlled rep? And then everyone's going, well, what about the back bend? The one where people like really arch their backs. Like, well, say that the shoulder has to be over the hip at the top of the repetition, which there are 40 other movements in the space where you say, hey, this is the hip and this is the shoulder, and they got to be over one another. And if it isn't, then it's a no rep. It makes it pretty easy, and I'm glad that they brought it back to that. I'm glad of a lot of other things that we're going to talk about at the end of this video, but first, and why we're over here is because I got my scale out. We're going to weigh my sandbags, and I've got a buddy. His name is Blair Chapman, and when Blair was over in the garage working out, we were doing some sandbag cleans. He insisted that my sandbag was too heavy.
Take it easy.
To which I told him,
why didn't you just go home?
You think that Home Depot is going to be wrong? You think Home Depot is going to sell me too much sand? I don't freaking think so. The reason I say that is because I'm assuming, like a lot of people, when I get the Rogue Strongman sandbag, it says 150 pounds, this size right here. I go to Home Depot and I get 3 50-pound sandbags from Home Depot. I take those 3 50-pound sandbags, I put them into my Rogue sandbag, and you think, oh, 50, 50, 50, 150 pounds, ready to go. Also, you can't fit any more sand in this sandbag.
How can we possibly determine that?
So I think that Rogue put this thing together. It's like, okay, with each morsel of sand, you're going to be able to fit this much sand in the bag. It's 150 pounds and you're good.
Is that what you think? You think?
Same thing applies for the 100-pound sandbag on the women's side. You put 2 Home Depot 50-pound sandbags into the Rogue 100-pound sandbag, and it's 100 pounds. You're good to go.
50, 50, and then my computer will analyze it with science.
Blair picks that thing up and I go, dude, you're weak if you're saying that this thing is too freaking heavy. He goes, this is way too heavy, there's too much sand in here. I go, no, your sandbags are too light.
That's why no one will remember your name.
And the reason that I say that is because when you go to the affiliates all over the world, there are people who are picking those things up and putting them down over and over and over again. And when you do that with a sandbag, there's little holes in them, or maybe, just maybe you have that sand. What is it, like contractor sand, confectioner sand, some sort of sand where it's powdery, and every time you drop it, you see this plume of dust come out of the bag. And if you do that a couple thousand times, the bag gets lighter over and over and over again. So what I thought when I saw this workout is that everybody everywhere is going to be going to Home Depot and filling up their sandbags, opening them up and putting some more in. So I want to weigh mine. I'm finally going to give Blair that confirmation that my sandbag is indeed the correct weight and that his is likely too light. But the first thing that we got to do, and Rogue recommends that you do this, is you zero in on your scale. This is the thing that I weigh myself on every single morning. So right here, I have a Rogue 35-pound kettlebell. And what is the scale going to say that this 35-pound? 35.6 pounds. Rogue, your kettlebell is too heavy, all right? Maybe 16 kilograms ends up being something different. And here's the thing about this, is I want to move the scale a little bit, and I'm going to reweigh this kettlebell. It's interesting that it's 35.6 pounds. I'm going to put it right back in the same spot. Here we go. 35.6, okay, that's great. Here's what I'm going to do now, is I'm going to take this Rogue branded, as you can see, Rogue branded 50-pound dumbbell. Turn the freaking scale on. Yeah, just like that. Turn the scale on. And I'm gonna weigh this thing. 50-pound dumbbell. What you weighing in at, Mr. Dumbbell? A half pound too heavy. I suppose it's better than a half pound too light, but every time I've ever done dumbbell snatch, that half pound is gonna add up, and I'm gonna tell you I'm not that happy about it. So either my scale's messed up, or Rogue is giving me heavy crap. At the very minimum, we have some sort of a basis for what the weight of this scale is in comparison to the weights of these objects, which are indeed Rogue branded. So next up, I got this sandbag. I'm gonna take this sandbag, and it's supposed to be 100 pounds. Make sure it's not skewing the scale over there. I'm gonna throw this guy on, and because it's too big, I'm gonna give it a second. And then after that second, I'll take it off. 112.3. Well, Alexis, I'm sorry, but every time you've ever done a sandbag clean, apparently it's 12 to 12.3 too heavy. Which now makes me second guess whether or not Blair was right, and this 150-pound sandbag is anything over 150. God, I hope not. The other thing we want to do with this Rogue qualifier is we gotta measure the dimensions of this. So like I said, this is the 100-pound Rogue Strongman sandbag, which I'm assuming is okay to use. They're very standard on the Rogue Fitness website. The women's has to be between 7.5 and 7.9 inches high when sitting on the ground. Let's see. So that's the ground. And I don't remember, oh, this is set up from the Nopin, this blue tape, but that's 8 inches. And the top of the freaking, it comes out to be about 8.5. And I wonder if that's because it's old, but this thing is already too big from the height. And then the diameter of it has to be between 14 and 18 inches. I'm assuming that has to be okay, that has to work, right? All right, so that works. It's about 16 inches, it's smack dab in the middle. And how about the circumference? Between 48 and 55. This thing do circumference? I don't know. Yeah, I guess so. Let's see. It is 53 inches around. So the only one that's really tripping me out is the height. So 7.9 is actually the blue tape. Interestingly enough, that's 7.9. That's great. And you can see, maybe you can't see, but the sandbag is about 1.5 inches higher than this blue tape line. So that doesn't fit the recommendations, and I wonder if I would be able to use this sandbag if I were a woman in the Rogue qualifier. I don't know. Now it's time for the moment of truth. The 150-pound sandbag. Was Blair right? Is this sandbag too heavy? Every time I've ever done a sandbag clean here, have I been doing too much freaking work? Let's see. I'm gonna leave it there. Is it completely off? Yep, it's all the way on there. All right, here we go. Well, Blair, you're right. 167.7. This sandbag has 17 pounds too much sand in it.
Now your back's gonna hurt.
Should I try it again? There we go. Let's try it again. Well, same thing. 167.7. If I were doing the Rogue qualifier, I would open this guy up. I would go in here and look, see, sand coming off. And I would take some sand out of it. What do I weigh right now? Take my shoes off, crawling up here like freaking Smeagol.
What did you say?
You know?
My precious.
Hang out on the scale, let's see what it tells me I weigh. So it's 200 pounds for me, which seems about right. That's what happens, you don't work out for 2 weeks. So what have we learned here today? It's that you can indeed be wrong while you're freaking certain that Home Depot wasn't gonna screw you on the weight of their sandbags. It's making me second guess what I thought about supplements as well. Why would a company put freaking Osterine, Rad 140 into their pre-workout? You think they're gonna put something more expensive into their things when they're trying to cut the bottom line? Well, Home Depot is putting more sand into their 50-pound sandbags to the tune of something like 5 pounds a bag. It's a 55-pound bag from Home Depot, not a 50-pound bag. In a way, I suppose Rogue Fitness is helping everybody measure their freaking sandbags. And while we're at it, let's go talk about a couple of other things that I do or do not like about the Rogue Invitational Qualifier. It's good to be back. The first thing that I need to think about when it comes to the Rogue Invitational Qualifier is exactly what I just did. It took me about 11 minutes to record all of that stuff, and I'm not even doing the workout. Granted, I probably talked a little bit too much. Maybe there's a little bit of me talking too much, but there is also the fact that I have the tripod, I have the setup, I know how to do all of this stuff. There are going to be athletes everywhere who don't have the wherewithal to do all of this stuff. Maybe they don't put the scale on the box. Maybe they put the scale on the rubber, and they're like, wait a minute, if I put the scale on the rubber, it's gonna mess up the way that the scale reads to the objects being weighed.
This is madness!
And they're all figuring this stuff out while they are trying to compete in this competition where they're going up against the best of the best. And those best of the best maybe have that set on said media team where they are now helping them set up and weigh all of these objects. And when you're looking at workouts with all these bumper plates, we're not talking the sandbag workout, we're talking the snatch workout. We're talking about needing to measure the floor, needing to walk around with the camera, then also making sure that you can upload this thing to the internet, and the barriers to entry are freaking high. Intellectually high. It was part of the coolest thing about the CrossFit Open is that if you want to go do the 7-minute AMRAP of burpees, you can do it in your backyard to a tree. So when I made the Nopin, one of the biggest mistakes that I made in the Nopin was I said that your feet had to be together and touching. And I think that I disqualified somewhere in the realm of 55 to 60% of the people who participated in the Nopin because their feet were not touching when they were making the measurement for that burpee AMRAP. The reason that I had to do that is because of the rules. And the thing that I'm thinking about here is that sandbag. My sandbag, the 100-pound one over there that Alexis would need to use on this, while it is a little bit heavy, the bag isn't going to change that much from taking out 10 pounds of sand. That is a bag that I got from Rogue Fitness, and it is 1 inch too high. I'm no expert in volume, and I don't know physics like that, but if you take out 10 pounds of sand, it's not going to depress the top of the sandbag by 1 inch+. plus. And at which rate, I'm wondering if they're going to do the same thing that I did in the Nopen. If your feet were this close, but they were not together and touching the way that they had to be, are they going to be disqualifying you because you're saying that it didn't fit the requirements while it was the right weight and while it was purchased from the company putting on the event? This is an invitational, and they do not need to be as inclusive as the Open would be, because it is open for everybody to do if you want to do it. Just like this is, I suppose you can sign up, you can throw your hat in the ring of the qualifier, but it is a Rogue's game. You are playing by Rogue's rules. I just want to know how they're going to deploy those rules. And while we're talking about two different entities, that is CrossFit Games, and we are talking about Rogue Fitness, there is a movement on here, and I think it's in event number 1 with the cluster. The cluster is defined as a squat clean into a thruster. Oh, it's just a thruster. Oh, okay, it's just a thruster.
It's just a thruster, and you know what that is?
All right, how about this part right here? Push jerking the barbell to overhead is not allowed. Okay, so it's got to be a push press. Understood. Split jerking isn't allowed. And once the barbell has been caught in the front rack of the clean, the feet must stay planted and not move during the thruster portion of the movement. Whoa. Any movement of the feet, including a step forward or a shuffle of the feet during the thruster portion of the movement, will result in a no rep? It's revolutionary. I can't believe it. It's not just a thruster.
And you know what that is?
It's a no movement of the feet thing. Hallelujah. Eureka. Why couldn't they have just said that at the freaking CrossFit Games open workout? Which one was that? The one with the heavy thruster after the down and back of the shuttle walks. Yeah, that one. You remember the walking and the pull-up, the burpee pull-ups? And it's like, hey, what do we do? It's just a thruster. You know what that is? We needed that! Thank you, Rogue, for giving us that. Thank you. How many times do I need to say thank you? Thank you. Good job. Good work. Okay, next. All right, next. The devil's press, they're saying that you would not clean and press them, so you can't touch the shoulders at any time. You've got to basically bring them right up from the hip. I like that. I've always thought that the devil's press should not allow you to do the clean and jerk variation. The legless rope climb on that workout says that athletes must perform a controlled descent. Jumping from the top of the rope is not permitted. Individuals must remain in contact with the rope until their hands and feet hit the floor. That one's interesting. You know that super fireman drop that Froning kind of started in 2014 and then everybody figured out how to do it? Athletes are not following these rules. They're doing that thing where they basically let go and they catch. That is not controlled. You're free falling. There's no control there. You regain control, I suppose. They're remaining in contact, I suppose. If you have some sort of a clamp with your hips, it says that you need to remain in contact, but it says that you have to remain in contact until your feet hit the floor, which means I'm thinking this. You're going hand over hand because you are in control of your descent on the rope climb. Your hands are still on the rope, your feet touch, and then your hands let go. And all I can think is of somebody who's gotten really good at this. I think Scott Panchik's a good example.
I think Scott Panchik has a trampoline under his rope.
Where he's doing this super free fall, he grabs.
3 minutes, 51.97 seconds. That time set by Dre Strawman.
And then his legs kind of flip off the back. It's like a reverse butterfly kip almost. And while he's kind of in the air there, his hands let go. He is rather close to the ground. It is safe. It would be below that so-called mark where you had to get yourself below it and show control below the mark. But when they write it like this, I'm wondering how many athletes are now thinking, okay, we got to do this because I need to show control on the way down and my feet need to be touching here before I let go of the rope before I do anything else. That was confusing. I'm curious the way that athletes are going to do it. I'm curious the way that Rogue is going to uphold their own rules, very much like the sandbag in the beginning. Mine's a little bit too fat. I did get it from you guys. I did fill it. It is 100 pounds, but it's about probably even a ½ inch too big now, even after I took that sand out to make sure that it fit the requirements. How about this one? This is one I like. I didn't like those two. I really like, and I don't think I've liked anything as much as I like that thruster standard, where you're not allowed to move your feet. So easy, so simple. CrossFit, you're so stupid for not listening to that. Maybe, just maybe, Dave is gonna listen to that stuff. Maybe that's gonna be the new standard, because they had it at one point. It's not just a thruster, but the wall-facing handstand push-up, this other new thing, this thing where they're making you wall walk into it every single time. I haven't hated anything as much as I've hated that in a long time. It's up there with the freaking movement of the feet on the thruster. The movement is the strict wall-facing handstand push-up. You're doing 55 of them in this workout, and if every single time you now need to go back up via a wall walk, the balance of life itself is now completely impossible to determine. You have the workout with 55 strict wall-facing handstand push-ups, and then you also have all of these snatches, 55 of them at various weights, and you're thinking about how to make this workout, volume here, volume there, what's the effect, what's the stimulus, and it changes every single time you mess up on a wall-facing handstand push-up, because now you need to wall walk yourself back up into that position. It makes the snatches harder when you can't do the wall-facing handstand push-ups. It's like a double, triple, freaking quadruple negative, and they got rid of it. It says right here, the athlete can get into the inverted position in any manner, as long as both hands remain in contact with the tape line and the arms are fully extended before the first rep. Awesome. Cartwheel yourself into the wall. Thank God. When people were trying to justify the way that you had to wall walk into it because it was a space saver and it was a safety issue, I was just thinking, you guys probably don't like freaking doing cartwheels. You're that person who can't do a somersault. One of my best friends can't do a somersault. And I can see that person saying, oh, thank God we don't have to somersault into the handstand walk, you know? What would that look like? Can I even do that? Freaking somersault into the handstand walk. Something like that, maybe, right? Oh, that's the first time I worked out in 2 weeks. That felt pretty good, right? So I see what Rogue's doing. I'd say that it's mostly on the good side of everything. I'm curious to see how athletes deal with that rope climb descent. I'm curious to see what they're doing with the sandbag weighing and measurements. And I'm also curious to see what CrossFit's response to the awesome new standards of the strict wall facing handstand push-up and the thrusters, where you are not allowed to move your freaking feet. That's all I have to say about that. And Hiller, out.
They smash that like button, no one touches their nasty legend.
Just do it! Make your dreams come true! Just do it! Some people dream of success, while you're gonna wake up and work hard at it. Nothing is impossible. No, what are you waiting for? Do it! Just do it! Yes, you can!